Okay, I'm surprised to see this thing still going. So I want to just sort of ask an establishing question of particularly you three commissioners, Patty, Ronian, and Margaret. Do you guys legitimately think that you're immune from legal consequences for your actions? Do you think that will just never happen to you for some reason? You and people like you, like Patrick Jones? That's a legitimate question because I can't really tell if you guys actually think that or not. Because all of this election fraud stuff came from you-know-who, your Voldemort, Tina Peters. Everything that happened in Shasta County, this Mesa pattern of fraud, which is why this commission is even here right now, because of Patrick Jones and Laura Hobbs talking about the Mesa pattern of fraud, then everybody came here and also started repeating it, and then they all started an elections commission, and now she goes to prison for 9 years. A local level politician, just like you guys. Patty Plum, you came to the last board meeting, and you're supposed to be a nonpartisan person there, and you spent half your time not only talking about election fraud conspiracy theories, but also disparaging Mary Rickard and supporting Corky Harmon. And you didn't specify whether you were speaking as a private citizen. You were elections commissioner Patty Plum, really not being nonpartisan whatsoever. Ronian, I think this Tina Peter thing might have affected you in some way because you canceled the last elections commission meeting only hours after the news came out about her going to prison. So you must have thought about it because you gave no reason as to why you canceled it. And I don't know anything about you, Mike. All I would say to you is I wouldn't get too close with these three. I wouldn't get too close with any of these people because we've seen that justice is actually happening for this kind of crap. All the people that are saying all this election fraud is happening are the ones who are doing it and trying to undermine the elections. That's why Tina Peters got caught, and that's why people all over the country, local normal people, keep getting caught. There was one today that took a plea deal from a judge, another one. I don't know why you guys think that won't happen in the biggest, bluest state ever. This is not some safe Zion for MAGA, it's California. And you guys, I know you want Trump to win, but what happens when Kamala Harris wins and Democrats take the House, Senate, and we take the hat trick? Democrats are going to be all super emboldened, and do you not think that they might actually spend some time and money digging into the people who tried to undermine our elections at the local level? You guys are being really stupid. What you should do right now for any potential future court case is adjourn this meeting right now. Apologize to the community and turn over a new leaf and stop doing this, because that could be something that could save you in court one day. That's legitimate advice. Thank you.
I'd like to assure everyone that the last meeting was not canceled, or the last cancellation of the last meeting had nothing to do with Tina Peters. Okay, Max Walter.
Good afternoon. I'm here to say that I am so glad Brad Garbutt is serving on this commission. Chairperson Lund, you got your feelings hurt because you definitely don't want to be regarded as someone who suppresses the vote. And I understand that. But you've boldly made recommendations that will do exactly that. And against county council's advice, I should add. There's no question that it will make it harder for certain groups and individuals to vote. It just will. They are a hodgepodge of people and groups, but we could call that group the Lund Group. And it's all under the guise of voter security, the big lie that our elections are not secure. It's a lie from a serial liar that has never had even a wisp of burden of proof. And you projected upon him. You said, Mr. Garbutt brings his agenda. All across America, people like Dinesh Souza and his ballot mules, Tina Peters, Kimberly Zapata, Mike Lindell, and the three of you in the center have the agenda. It is to implement restrictive changes to our representative democracy in service to the big lie. Burden of proof be damned. And what's all your work added up to? What's your record after a full year? Has a single one of your recommendations ever been considered by the Board of Supervisors? I know of none. It's like your recommendations are either illegal, unenforceable, or unconstitutional. All you've done is thrown Hail Mary passes all year long. And in the old days, fiscal conservatives would be livid. In light of all this, I'm glad Brad Garbutt is on the dais, and he's consistently on the same side as county council. That can't be said of the three of you. That's 1 for him and a -3 collectively for the rest of you. Yours is direct dereliction of your sworn duties. Tantamount. Voter fraud is extremely rare outside the cult. But inside, it's everywhere. I understand. It's like you're trying to make us all live inside the Bigfoot Museum in Willow Creek, where they tell you before you enter that room that everything you see in that room is a proof that he exists. But the thing about that is those proofs don't exist anywhere else outside that room. There are no penalties for believing in Bigfoot. Voter fraud penalties are enormous. Shasta County is fortunate that Brad serves as a counterbalance to your recklessness. Only reckless people would not heed county council's recommendations. Recklessness is not a virtue in public servants. It's what happens when people self-marinate themselves in conservative media and people like Denise Souza.
I love how the chair cues up the,
Could
Yeah.
you please speak to that, Stephanie? She's accusing me of lying.
Chair, we put them in front of you in the order they were received.
oh, okay.
Thank you.
I apologize.
Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Jones created this commission for one thing, to spread lies, misinformation, and propaganda needed to mislead Shasta County voters. And in return, Mr. Jones was rejected. His lies and his threats were rejected. But here's another threat. It is recommended that the board move on these recommendations as quickly as possible by whatever means necessary in order to prevent civil unrest. Really? Civil unrest? That's amazing. You know what, Mrs. Lund? You and Patty Plum need to apologize for your terrorist threat upon the people of Shasta County. Do so right now. Nothing? Okay, let the record reflect that Lund and Plum still endorse that statement.
I don't want to get in back and forth, but if you recall, that was removed from the recommendation.
If you go online and look at the, it's currently listed, and by the way, that was sent to a list of people.
Can you please check that? Stephanie?
Yep.
Thank you. She'll check that.
Chair Lund, you also accuse Brad of being here with an agenda to disrupt the process. He's perpetuating lies on the news media, appearing to speak with authority. I think this tantamounts to being a criminal. If he continues, I will add an item to figure out how to dismiss him. Really? Chair Lund, I demand an apology to Brad right now. None. Let the record reflect. No apology. Chair Lund, Mr. Garbutt is indeed a threat. He's a threat against the lives of you, Plum, Hanson, Jones, Cry, Kellstrom, and Mr. Pello trumped up propaganda. Truth and law are of little interest to you, Chair, or Lund, Plum, Hanson, because basically, against County Council's recommendation and using Hobbesian BS claptrap to pass R3, you attempt to break the law. And breaking the law, yeah, that's serious. Your lawlessness is a problem. You cost tens of thousands of dollars of hard-earned taxpayer dollars. You, Plum, and Harrison have recommended violating the law. You need to be investigated.
Alrighty, moving on, Lori Bridgeford.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I want to thank you first for being very involved these past few months to address the massive amount of concerns, issues, questions, especially on the observations locally. And I'm not sure if this is your first meeting, Mike. So I believe this is the final meeting for the Election Commission before the actual November election. Brad, I think you've been here maybe 2, possibly 3. And you are clearly on record as not seeing any validity of having such a commission. So it's just kind of been one of those, why are you here? So again, thank you for the primary 3. I was hoping that ROV Tom Toller would be here either in person or to send a statement that could be read at any of the meetings that he was not here. This is so crucial, important, and vital, and I just find it, even a short statement, a paragraph, would have been welcome, I would think, by most of us. When Tina Peters is brought up, she's not been an election interferer. She had the election happen, no matter how tragic it was, and then she started to take action after the election was over. And if you can't figure out that the judicial system is toxic, corrupt, and all the rest, her son, Navy SEAL, dead. Her husband, I believe, dead. When you are a targeted individual, they will go after as many family people, friends, your pet, anything before it's your turn with some freak accident or whatever. Suicide, whatever they want to say. So I'm not so much here with the Tina Peters issue, but I don't find it useful to bring it in and try to quash what our local Shasta County is trying to do. So I just want to encourage as many people to be observers, poll workers or observers. I might spend the whole day at every precinct I can possibly be at on election day, because I am stunned at the absolute awful conditions for the people already observing. They can't visually see, they can't hear what's going on. They'll see one person carting off with something by themselves. They're told when they can have a bathroom break. Are you kidding? What century are we living in? This is absolutely insane. And it's right here, 2024 in Shasta County. So again, thank you, your primary members. Time's up, I'll go.
You have 25 seconds.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Laura Hobbs.
Good afternoon, Board. I'd like to spend some time talking about what we've experienced as election observers in this last week or so. For one thing, they're not making it easy for us to observe. They keep changing the schedule up. So we have tried multiple times, tag teamed, called them. We were given the official time window, which they were going to do activities, but that was a 5 to 8 hour window. So you can't plan your life around a 5 to 8 hour window. They've made it so that the election period is actually 2 months in length. And nobody has 2 months of time to give to be election observers. That's why we need to go back to one-day voting. If we can't even in this long period of time know exactly when they're processing ballots, we can't have a meaningful observation of the election. And without such, it's not a public process and it's not a valid election. I wanted to say also that you guys are not breaking the law by putting forth recommendations to the board. It doesn't even matter, what those recommendations are. I think everything you've put forth right now is solid and good and well researched. But even if it weren't, you wouldn't be breaking the law. It's up to them to decide what to do with those recommendations and whether or not they can implement them according to law. So don't be influenced by people here that want only to intimidate you. And I'd like to note that in the last election, there were about 2,900 undeliverable ballots. However, when you look at the current voter roll, most of them are still on there. There's about 2,020 of them that are still there. They were undeliverable in the last election, and now they're considered still worthy of sending out ballots to those addresses, which they couldn't deliver on just 6 months ago. So that's a problem. We need to look at that. I want to talk more about the undeliverable ballots, because what they do is they box them up in cardboard boxes, and they set them down there by the agilis, and they put a piece of tape over the ones that are completely full, and the boxes that aren't totally full are just sitting there open. Well, those ballots go on the black market for about 40 bucks a piece. 40 bucks a piece, excuse me. And so if you consider that each of those boxes contain hundreds to thousands of ballots, you're talking about thousands of dollars worth of ballots there. And the clerk has a safe which they lock up all the money and the valuables in. These ballots, however, are not locked up. They should be. We should consider them as we consider currency. These are extremely valuable, and anyone who has access to that room can get a hold of those ballots and start utilizing them. Thank you.
That's great.
Some of us have been coming here for a long time, trying to open some people's eyes. You think we can talk it out, but once you've seen it, you can't unsee the problems. It's like if Johnny saw Billy steal his jacket, do you think Johnny is just going to believe people if they tell him, no, Billy didn't steal your jacket? How many people out there are saying there is nothing wrong with our elections? Have actually taken the time to observe and see how much transparency we now have in our elections. There have been so many laws passed. Can you tell me if any of them have been made to secure our elections? I don't know of any of them. Okay. Did you know when you register online, it prints a ballot in an envelope, and the address it goes to is Shasta County Clerk Register of Voters, P.O. Box 998880, Auburn, California, 95604-9913. How do we process those ballots? How do we even get those ballots? Why is their P.O. Box in Auburn the same as our address, our P.O. Box here in Reading? That seems really fishy to me. And I have no clue if we're even getting those ballots to count. Okay, that needs to be looked into. I went to the logic and accuracy testing. You couldn't see anything, not a single ballot. Then I also observed the signatures. Our people verifying the signatures get 3 hours of training. Now, if you're really a signature expert, it takes a few years to get that. Okay, and then we could not see what was on a single ballot. Signatures, workers, there was one worker that I think thought they were a jockey, and they were in a horse race because they were just going as fast as they could. The batches of 175 were mostly done in like 3 to 5 minutes. In fact, there is a button that okays everybody on that page. And one batch, when she first opened it up, she went through 4 or 5 all at once, where boom, 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 boom. How could she even see that? The only thing she was catching was if it was void and there was no signature, and that, I believe, gives you an exclamation mark to slow you down. But take a look at the person that's doing it in a reasonable amount of time. She's catching a whole lot more. So you need to look at those signatures, because especially the ones where it's taken 4 minutes. Oh, I'm done with 175 of them. Okay, thank you.
Dan?
Commissioners, especially you three, I appreciate you volunteering your services and hearing these things out. I am disappointed the Board of Supervisors has not taken action like they should have. But I don't want you being intimidated by some fools out here in the audience that think they know what's going on. They believe their propaganda and accuse us of believing ours, so there you have it. What is going on with observation and transparency over in the election board office is insane. There is non-existent. They record 4 monitors. I kept telling them they needed to get timestamps on those monitors so you know when that happened and if we know it's even live. The recordings aren't available to the public. It's just kept in the ROV's office, which we have a concern with. They finally put timestamp on one, and they were told it was too expensive to put a timestamp on a recording, which is false information. We also need to be recording what is going on with the signature quote verification. As Bev stated, they are just flying through those. There's no way of checking it. They have stacked 3 small monitors, the size you have in front of you there, to try verifying 4 signatures at a time per screen. And then they stacked them so any observers have to be standing and leaning over one another to get access to that screen. It's a joke to call that given observation. The ROV, if he had any concern about the legitimacy and making the public feel like this was a fair vote, would be recording those verifications so it could be gone through at a reasonable speed to see if that actually was the right signature. We're not requiring ID, folks. The only way that you know if these votes are legit or not is by verifying the signature and making sure it matches the DMV record. That is not taking place. So you're just collecting ballots from anybody. They'll drop them in those boxes there. You can't say that that's a fair election. And so November 6th, there's very possibly going to be problems because one side's going to lose and one side's going to win, and you have no way to verify that what's declared as the winner is actual facts. So thank you for your time. I know you guys really tried, but if the Board of Commissioners doesn't take a stand on it, we're in trouble.
All right, moving on to the consent calendar. Oh,
Just a minute.
for sure. Sophia?
Hi there.
Hi.
Thanks for letting me speak on a short notice. I just wanted to ask you guys about voter fraud because something on Reddit has been circulating of a man admitting that he committed voter fraud with 4 tenants who was living in his building because he receives their mail. And I was wondering if you guys had any more details on this or if you guys have heard of situations like this.
I haven't personally. Anybody else?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. That's it. Just wondering.
Thank you. Okay, looks like we have one more.
Good afternoon, Board. I just wanted to say my high regard for all of you that worked so hard to try to do the right thing by lighting a fire under our Board of Supervisors to change the laws that they could change. And that is something I need to remind everybody here that the recommendations you guys made were entirely legal. The counties are allowed certain little tweaks that they can do to run their own election, and a lot of people didn't know that until some of our team figured that out. So what we've been trying to do is run a legal and fair election without all of the nonsense that's imposed on us. And so you guys have done a great job doing all the research, and I just want to commend you for that. It bears repeating again that everything in the last 30 or so years in our country and state have, in the name of trying to increase the franchise, allow or to break down the barriers that are non-existent pretty much to voting. There weren't that many barriers to voting, but little by little we have done a good job in eliminating those. But they took it too far, and now there's hardly any checks and balances on who can vote. And it looks like federally and in the state of California says anybody can vote, and it's up to somebody like groups of citizens to say, wait a minute, we need to verify this. But our own ROV, our own county clerk's elections office, don't allow that, or they make it really hard to verify voter rolls. And then I want to echo what Dan said, and Laura, it's extremely hard to observe anything. I thought Tom Toller would be a force for one thing and one thing only, is increasing the meaningful observation that we could do. And he's been a big failure and a big dud at that. And we need to rattle his cage, rattle the board's cage, and at the very least, we need meaningful observation. That's one thing that still can be done. It doesn't require any technology. It just requires common sense procedures allowing citizens, not just us, could be anybody. Anybody can go there, and they should be able to go there and observe and hear and see what's going on to make sure everything is according to Hoyle. Okay, thank you.
Last one, Sharon?
Good afternoon. My comments are about the work that you as a commission are doing. In my view, the commission work is nonpartisan to address the questions that the people of Shasta County have regarding elections and election security and integrity. This public forum is probably a good way to have conversations about these issues rather than those festering in the dark places. And again, my comments are about the work and how you do your work. I have a few comments and questions. For example, about the presentation by Steve Umfleet. I reviewed it online, and I have two questions about that. One is, I wonder how, when, and where, and from whom he received the data for the analysis that he's doing. And why do you not have an agenda item that allows the Shasta County Elections Office to address his 2 points? The March election is done, and the election office can probably explain some of these issues that he's raising, and you're not giving them an opportunity to do so. Without their input, you, the commissioners, look like you are raising concerns, but you're not finishing up the conversation, which does not serve the people of the county. Regarding agenda items R2 and R3, on these two, I wonder why they are on the agenda now. For R2, the item states that November 5 is less than 30 days away. That was October 3rd was 30 days. That's 18 days ago. For R3, the item states that November 5 is less than 60 days away. You met on, so that would be September 3. You met on September 9, September 23, and October 7, and did not have those agenda items on. And you are doing this today when the election is 2 weeks away, and you want to discuss and perhaps make a recommendation to the supervisors, whose next meeting is next Tuesday, a week before the election. So there's no reasonable possible way for your recommendation to be implemented by your target date of November 5. For R2, I wonder who wrote the election reconciliation guidebook and when and for which purpose. So I looked that up. All that is online, right? So it was published on October 3, just a couple of weeks ago. It was published by Fate 2024, which was founded by and is led by Joe Hoft, whose right-wing conspiracy website is accused of bankruptcy fraud. His organization filed for bankruptcy in order to avoid penalties for defamation in Missouri and Colorado. While I appreciate the forum to discuss these issues, I'm disappointed that you are presenting one-sided information and you're presenting it late, too late to implement. So why, please explain, are you presenting it at all, and how do your actions serve all of the people of Shasta County?
All right.